It sounds like your film. There's that voice.
Yeah, that's
So
right.
I really finally, for the first time in a while, made the whole background work with all my crazy art and shit. And I had been taking advantage of blur. And so now I got blur again.
Oh
Like,
yeah.
you know, so that's a really cool movie. I mean, that's a great first feature. Where are you taking this film as, out there? Are you, you're going to go right to the theater right now?
Yeah, I guess we've got Cinephobia releasing it in the States, and so it's going to VOD in I believe it's May 8th. So we're pretty excited about that for the little movie. This feels like the little movie that could, we made it for a shoestring budget
Don't
and
say, no, it's under 1 million. That's all you say.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I'll say much under 1 million.
Don't give them any
But
room to negotiate. These guys are barracudas.
yeah, 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 yeah.
They have to be. They don't have creative vision talent like you. All right. So you got to get more like them, or they got to get more like you, right?
Yeah, that's it. I mean, that's a good point for sure.
They got money and they got bills Um,
Yeah,
I liked it really, I mean, I love it. You must be a student of cinema because of the multiple references to certain kinds of films that we've seen that were great.
for sure. Yeah, I think there's a lot of inspiration. Obviously, I think Taxi Driver is the most obvious, almost cliched one, but there's a lot of movies that take place in
After
cars.
Hours, After Hours.
After Hours,
I said
huge.
After Hours with a dash of Taxi Driver.
Yeah.
Oh,
No, it's
uh,
definitely
but you
those
did have
two.
the you talking to me routine. You had that.
Yeah,
That
yeah.
I don't know the specific things, but I love the retro homeless people. So it was like anti-Blade Runner, you know.
Yeah.
But they were actually realistic, but that made them retro. Um, and then I like the robot boss thing, and there's some other references that kind of come to me also, but I liked also the way you got the graffiti. In that one scene where there was now, did you deal with the graffiti artist who was like the one who was that character, or you just say this was the graffiti that was there and we're going with it?
Yeah, we just, like everything that you see in the movie is what we sort of found on the street. We'd find an interesting location, pull
Where did
up
you
and
shoot?
shoot a scene there. And
Where
sorry,
did
say again.
where did you shoot?
The whole thing was on the streets of Toronto up in Canada
Wow.
here.
I'm from
But
Philly,
yeah,
and I can see shots that look definitely like Philly, and the last place definitely looked like a storage place space that
yeah,
they're looking at. But it's like they're on a formula, right? So a storage space
totally. They
North
crop up
Jersey
everywhere.
will look like one in Toronto.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think Toronto and Philly probably have a very similar like history of how they got built. So Toronto's, yeah, it's got a lot of sprawl and a lot of interesting neighborhoods and I wanted to capture as much of the character of the city as I could and the character that we don't normally see of a city. Most movies when they feature a city, you get the polished sheen and the big exciting streets and for me, I'm more excited
I
about the
like that stuff.
yeah,
I mean, Sean Baker does pretty well with that crap, doesn't he?
totally, yeah.
But there is a certain look to a certain place. But what's interesting about that is I would never known it was Canada. It could have been, northern in Oregon. You know what I mean? You need a little rain for the noir look, right?
Yeah, yeah. I think the goal was to make it sort of an anonymous city. Like I like the grit and the feeling of it, but I didn't want it to. I wanted it to be anywhere, and I wanted the viewer to be able to see, like if you live in a city, to be able to see something from their city in the city that we've sort of painted in the movie.
Yeah, well, you come from the editing background. You know that you're that type of director as compared to, let's say, the script writing director in general. I mean, in terms of your skill set, although you know what to do with a great script. You're really a good filmmaker. They have these people who are so good at writing screenplays that you should do that. You know,
Yeah,
we can write a screenplay as good as any they can write. We're just gonna write 11 of them. They're on spec. It's just an
yeah,
accident, right? So
yeah.
you got to feel that way, I think, to play in this game.
Totally. I started and like most of my experiences as an editor, so I like to think I learned from a lot of other people's mistakes, sitting in the room with them trying to fix something that didn't quite work, and you sort of build up a lot of experience that way. And so when it came time to make my first film, I sort of banked a lot of lessons that I didn't have to learn the hard way.
Yeah, no, it really was. I thought it was a pretty neat edit where you showed him and what it was. I was worried it was a storage area, just,
Yeah,
and then you saw the units, and then he went through a tunnel, and he came back, and I got a store had a storage unit where there was a storage place, and then on the other side was like one of those little corporations, 10
right,
people that, sell like, fish that jump up and down or something crazy or, they,
right.
uh, and it was like right on the end of it. And it seemed to me like that shot was just like the place I'd been to and that they were really at the same place, but I may be wrong. You know the shot I'm talking about after he goes through the tunnel and he's at that storage spot, where
Hmm.
there's the trash can and the little yellow little thing in there, whatever they things do, and then there's spaces, and then he goes through a tunnel, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah, I
then he
think
comes
yeah,
back and you see like a little office building, like one story, the way they do out when they stretch out in North Jersey or you
right.
office parks.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Were,
Yeah, a
were
lot
were
of
they
office
in the
parks.
same area? Those
No, I think our sort of geography got pretty creative, and I just sort of find interesting ways. And like, if the car was moving at the right speed, you could cut between neighborhoods and you sort of,
Oh, I
yeah,
like that. If the car's moving at the right speed, you can cut between neighborhoods. That's cool.
yeah.
Keep that one.
Yeah,
We don't want to do no step and repeat here.
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Oh, I saw you went to a lot of trouble to can't believe I set this background up and I don't even have it.
Oh,
Um
yeah.
I'll look while we're talking, but um so you really prepped to get to do this film. I mean, you did 5 shorts. That's the old style calling card shorts.
Yeah, I guess I mean yeah, we made the last short I made was over a decade ago, and they were very different from this film. They were really I guess they were like more relationship dramas, really like mumblecore style type
Sure,
things.
that would have been the period for that. So
Yeah,
that
exactly.
much. So you're talking 10 to 15 years ago.
Yeah.
What did
And
you
then
do in the middle? Did you just make a good living editing or
basically I sort of built my career as an editor and like I just sort of got distracted from making things, and
well,
when
don't
this
forget
idea
about
came to
so
me and I had some
bad.
time.
We interviewed Todd Field, who had a really great start, and he just
Yeah.
disappeared for like 12 years. But he's
Yeah.
making a lot of money making commercials. I asked him about, when he had this film with Kate Blanchett at New York Film Festival, and he was happy and mellow. And, it's a good way to go in so that you're not like under perpetual stress, which this character is definitely under.
Yeah.
You should
Yeah,
look
I
the
think
book up.
it's easy to get sort of sidetracked. Like I knew I wanted to make a film, but I didn't know what I wanted to make. And then you're sort of working day to day as a freelancer and trying to make ends meet, and you take whatever jobs you can, and then all of a sudden you're a decade later and it's yeah, time is catching up with you.
So, where did you go to your film school stuff?
I went to what used to be called Ryerson up here in Toronto. It's sort of Canada's biggest film school. And yeah, I met most of the people who helped me with this movie I met there. And then our crew is made up of like at the time current students. We reached out and got 3 or 4 students to come out and sort of help rig up our car and help just keep the set moving. And
So you came from up in Canada then.
yeah, yeah.
So you're a real Canadian person and made a film in Canada.
I'm
That's
a Canadian boy through and through. Yeah.
I wrote a good feature on a guy that basically does a lot of stuff with Canadian, even though he lives in Hollywood. And
Yeah.
he did a feature with Ed Asner's last really big role. Uh,
Oh yeah.
called Tiger Within. Really nice guy. He's waiting for grants for Canada right now. You know, he's done six
Yeah.
independent features after, doing working for Corman for about 15 years.
Oh, wow.
Everybody celebrates Corman as a hero,
Yeah.
but Rafal will spittle in the ground and you say the name Roger Corman. But, it happens that way. People have experiences. I had interviewed a director once, and we were talking about a good star, had real magnetism, and he had him in a movie. He said his name. Don't even bother saying that name. It was like it
Yeah,
can
yeah.
get that way.
Sometimes personalities clash, you know.
They can get that way, so I hear.
Yeah.
So that's better to come in with a little bit of, stuff to take you through the rough times and when the whole day's lost shooting, and you
Yeah, totally.
the money or whatever. But you look like you know what the heck you're doing. So it's really cool to meet you on this. I'd love to see what your next feature is. I'll tell you, this guy is definitely under perpetual stress, and the reason
That's
I say that
for
is
sure.
I actually have probably because I sell books. And I have
Okay.
a lot of books, and certain ones I keep for myself. And one of the best books I've ever read on trying to improve your life. It's called Undoing Perpetual Stress. And
Okay.
I see that right in this guy.
This guy's like constant. Yeah, he just sort of he invites perpetual stress. He
Yeah,
he
he could
thrives off it
play
in a
it.
way.
Yeah, they're
Yeah.
pretty good ensemble. I mean, they're not working together directly until that final, stuff. But you know,
Yeah. Yeah,
eh,
we got really lucky. I think the hardest thing when you're making a low budget film is casting. And so Nathaniel, the guy who plays the main character, is a good friend of mine, and we sort of I wrote the script with him in mind, but then all the other players, we like just sort of put our feelers out, and I
all
think I
good
got,
voices. And all
yeah,
good voices.
that was sort of my first thing is like I wanted an interesting face, not like a classically Hollywood face.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, there was a one girl with her nose is a little big, but she played it just the way. That doesn't matter. Her daddy's got plenty of money or whatever. But or she's like 180 IQ and she don't give a shit. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Another one, it was the one with the played the angel, I guess it was, or she was very seductive and attractive, but she wasn't your standard beauty. She wanted more of like a goth kind of beauty.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I think I'm attracted to people who yeah, like you said, interesting faces, you know?
Yeah, yeah. I I use that. I say because as Fellini used to say, I like your face.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. He's the master of interesting faces.
Yeah, yeah.
His
They're
film,
actually
yeah.
going to run. Where you're not in New York in April, are you? They're running 8.5 on the big screen. It's like for several a week or something.
Oh man, that would be no. But I would love to see that movie on the big screen.
Yeah,
What theater?
it would kind of be the film forum or
Oh yeah.
one
Yeah.
of those three. You know. If it's a real old retrospective, it almost always goes to one of the three old guys,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
the anthology's not as active as it used to since Jonas passed, you know. But it's still there. The archive is there.
Yeah.
So they're saying a lot of people are liking to shoot and film again. Or what's thinking on that?
Yeah, I mean, I understand the nostalgia, but like my perspective is it feels sort of like old-fashioned. And like my movie, we shot on like the tiniest cameras possible
What?
that do I have it here? It's like it was a tiny camera this big, a Sony ZV-1, and they're sort of designed for vloggers like YouTube
But it's what is it shooting? What? HD?
we shot in 4K.
You shot in 4K with this tiny
Yeah.
little thing, huh?
Yeah, the technology is incredible. And so this movie could not have been made for close to what we made it, even a couple of years earlier. And so that I feel like I'm a big fan of using the technology to make new cinema. And I understand the sort of nostalgia for film, but I don't personally have it.
I think probably it's got to fit on a period piece.
Yeah. Well, I guess the thing about film is like it sort of forces you into a mindset. You have to think about your images because you
But
can't
I'm
afford
doing the
to shoot
sound
forever.
effects here with the phones to make it sound like what it sounded like in the taxi. Um,
Okay.
it's down the hall. It's like
Yeah, 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 yeah.
I'm still trying to find how I can get to the background. Reset to default. What would that do? I don't want to take a chance. You know, this whole program, they keep making it more sophisticated.
Yeah, more complicated.
Well, is it more complicated or more complex?
More complex. Yeah.
I mean, it's just they're like saying you might want to do this sometime in 100 different interactions, and if you lean this way, it's going to do that when you have
Yeah.
no idea. It has nothing logically to do with the process you're working on.
Yeah.
You know what I'm finding out with Apple. I think Apple's in trouble personally. So they're not going to be able to hold um, uh, the computer hold that they have right now. I think it's just an accident. It went an extra 10 years, you know, because the rest of it is like, aren't you serious?
Yeah.
I mean, Bill Gates' stuff is slow, but it doesn't make tautological mistakes and progressions into where for no reason.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. We're living in an interesting time.
Somebody's got to work on the interface with the thing, you know?
Yeah,
That's what I think's got to happen, you know?
for
Yeah.
sure.
I think you got a really good film there.
Thank you so
I have
much.
a friend who's a horror guy, who's an expert, and I have to now become at least competent in the field since they more than doubled the amount of horror films in terms of percentage of content.
Yeah,
I don't
it's
think it ends
really,
for a couple years. I think it will end in a couple years, or three at the most. But
yeah, I wonder. I think like in the indie space, it's the one area that seems to make money. And so now everyone is like flooding the market. And I wonder if the audience will put up with that.
well, I think if it leads into good like detective thriller stuff.
Yeah.
That's really well done. I think those kinds of films. Look at the thing comes up in the background. You see it behind my ear?
Yeah. What is
It's like
that?
it's an interaction with their blur background.
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah.
Um, but you know, it is crazy that some of the stuff is going through, but if you're really making good films, I personally think if you attach the thriller to a good detective thing and you have enough violence, you can satisfy the need for vengeance of some sort or
Right.
and but at the same time have some a love affair. Obviously you have to have some sort of love affair, even if it's with the two eyes on this
Yeah, 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 yeah.
but
I think the main thing is just like good
they don't
storytelling.
never old. What I was going to say is that and the stuff will always work.
Yeah.
So and horror films will always work as a genre. It's just they're so dominant in the overall thing, and you're hitting it at the right thing. And since it's very much a thriller, also, you know,
Yeah.
I I really think you should stick with this thing and keep pushing it out there. And if they give you a limited run, this is my idea. They steal it, okay. No, somebody going to hire me, part time for 3 months and pay my bills for 6 years. I'll do it. But I'm going to share it with you, and you're going
Okay.
to share it with them. Which is
Yeah.
after you release it, you get what you get on it, and it goes to
Hmm.
VOD. Now I hope you didn't sign the wrong shit. Um, Take it out to the festival circuit again.
Yeah, yeah. We did pretty well on the festival circuit, and then I think the hard thing is a movie like this, it was sort of an uphill battle getting people's attention, and so we sort of built a snowball. We
Mm,
started about this time last year and like
okay.
yeah.
I didn't get
So
to read the full printed press material. I wanted to see the film again. But so you have all the festivals you were at in there, right?
yeah, so we didn't make like we just sort of I think our first American one was a couple months ago, but we did a few in Europe, one in Canada, like a couple in the UK. So we're
So
sort of
which were the ones you did in the UK, Canada, and Europe?
so Our biggest premiere was Fantasia up in Montreal. That's sort of, I guess, one of the top three genre festivals.
Yes, that's
And
good.
then we were at Grimfest in Manchester last in the fall. And then Razor Reel in Denmark
Wow.
and a couple in like Switzerland and Germany, and then we went down to Brazil. So we've been bouncing around.
And then your premiere in Canada was at Fantasia, right? So that was
Fantasia, yeah. Yeah.
absolute first premiere.
That was our North American premiere, I guess.
Oh,
Our first
at,
premiere was Brazil, yeah.
in Brazil.
Yeah.
Wow, that's a great place to premiere a
It
film.
was awesome. Yeah. There's a festival called Fantaspoa down there that it's like the big genre festival, but it's just such a warm, wonderful community. And like we went down for a week, me and Nathaniel, and we made some new best friends.
Well, Daniel's the lead right now.
Yeah. Yeah.
It sounds
The
cool.
driver. Yeah.
Right. Well, what's his acting background? That's
He,
this
he doesn't do much. Like when yeah, I think he wants to do more, but he doesn't like put himself into auditions that much. And whenever me or a friend writes a role for him, he'll be there, but he's
yeah,
not like actively auditioning.
you know. Um, that's pretty cool. Uh, let me see. I actually wrote some stuff too. The ending. My horror expert. That's where I was going. He decided that somehow he thought the physics of it didn't work, and I looked really closely. I also want to ask you: do the eyes? They never do anything at all until that when it makes a decision that it has to rescue its cabbie.
I play throughout with like the way the vent interacts with the eyes. Uh, but yeah, I think I don't want to say too much, but for people who are looking for like clues can go back and, analyze how he interacts with
I think
those.
I saw one, but it was more like he looked at it and then he banged the top of the dashboard, and I thought was he really? I felt like he was communicating somehow with those,
Yeah.
you know.
Our goal was to like, yeah, make the car a third character.
It says nothing and shows no emotion
And
until it's time,
yeah,
you know.
yeah, exactly.
So we had a discussion of whether, yeah, it's impossible that that could have happened, but was it implausible? So, I mean, I looked at it. I'm not going to go anymore, but the film just rolls into there. And then
Yeah.
afterwards, it's like, there's a lot of films we're seeing lately end where it's like, God, we've been through all that. It's like, whatever. I mean, what the hell am I going to do next? And
Yeah.
you notice
I,
that there's a lot of films
I
ending
feel like it's sort of the mood
in the
everyone's in
last
right now
shot.
is,
That's not
yeah,
necessarily the end, so to speak, but it's the last
yeah.
shot at the end.
I think it's sort of like, yeah. I mean, for me, it was sort of he went through this whole thing. He did a lot of horrible stuff and he's no better off. So
Yeah,
what's he
and
gonna
he's
do next?
lucky. Going to just go at it again. Well, fuck that company. And I'll go
Yeah.
back to the other one. And boom.
And it's like what so for
Gotta
me it's
hand that to
like
him. You
what
know, there's an inspiration there.
yeah. I guess so,
Get
yeah.
up as he is, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Isn't that
Yeah.
like Brando getting up and out the waterfront?
Yeah, totally. Yeah, that's exactly it.
It's cool. Cool. Yeah, we were gripped by it, so that's really nice. I don't like to do reviews. I do profiles. If a film
Yeah, yeah.
works on the screen, we're going to cover it. Actually, I'm decided to build my website based on the 300 films I will have seen by the end of next year. It's going to be I'm going to write a book called Under the Radar: 300 Films You'll Probably Never Get to See, and I've seen about 200, and so, if I don't like them at all, if they don't work, I don't talk about them. But if it's
Yeah, yeah.
hard to get a film done, that is an achievement in itself. They should be given some, reference, you know.
Totally. Well, I really appreciate your time and watching our movie.
Well, the distributor is what, Vertical, was it?
Cinephobia.
Cinephobia. Oh, right. Vertical's got that Kate Blanchett one. That ended kind of like the same. I love
Yeah,
her.
yeah.
Um, we just happen to run into a lot of stuff in the last year. What I like about her is she's like, it seems like half the ones who are really great, their PR people are pretentious, which means they're slightly
Right.
maybe, but definitely they don't have good choices in what looks pretentious or not. But she looks like just so pure, you know? I mean, one role into the next, and she just, boy, what a sharp.
Yeah, she's sort of fearless.
Yeah, and she just does it,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I appreciate that too.
Um, so I'm sure you got a couple coming up, or you got one that you're looping around, hopefully.
Yeah, I'm writing right now, and then we're hoping to shoot something like maybe end of the summer and get get that into the world whenever
Give
how
you a
long it
free
takes.
read anytime,
Yeah.
all right?
Thank you.
Love to look at scripts and um, geez, this was pretty good. We did in 27 minutes and 44 seconds, you know? Let's get a little bit more into how do you feel about like when you were editing, what were you doing like, for the years you were editing, were you working in commercials or like or into the Toronto movie business type of stuff?
I mean, it's sort of all over the place. A lot of reality TV was where I started. The like, Reno shows and stuff like that was, I guess those were my first jobs. And then a lot of Canadian sitcoms. I did Working Moms, which I think you guys got on Netflix.
Uh,
And then yeah, a lot of like indie features and
Oh, you did
you know,
work on edited several indie features.
yeah, I've done probably like a dozen indie features at this point, but they don't pay as much as, the TV the TV side of things generally pays better than these l lower budget indies.
Yeah, well, it only makes sense. They got to get in and, they got what
Yeah.
to work with. Um, what's his name had a film in here, the really good young, I think, Agoyan.
Oh
Ab-
yeah.
Yeah. Did you ever get to work with him?
No, I met him once. My wife used to work in film and she worked on one of his movies. So
Hmm.
I got to go to their wrap party one time and he was a
He's a
very nice guy.
cool guy, yeah.
Yeah, super cool. So,
He's
yeah.
like the top one of he's like the Sean Baker of Canada, wouldn't you say? Except Sean hit really fast after not hitting for years. Well, he's
Yeah,
getting little stuff, you know what I mean? But it's still the same, you know. I know.
totally. I
He's
think
a
yeah,
good guy.
Agoyan's sort of Canadian royalty. Like he's been around and he's the like the biggest success story, so people treat him like a king.
Well, he does it, he accepts it humbly, enough and
Yeah,
go on to the next project, you know. And
totally.
the guy Madden used to be like the guy.
Guy Madden's incredible. He like I admire him so much for just the like the fearlessness and he just sort of sticks to an idea and goes with it and has no qualms about making something that's totally different from, what an audience or what like people expect from a movie, which yeah, I admire that so much.
And I like the way the other thing that's cool is, um, my old man used to say, he didn't know shit. I mean, my father, but just talk about the people on television and the movies. He says, none of them ever seem to have any problems with money on a day-to-day basis.
Right.
Unless they're like dead broke, uh,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
nothing, you know? But you got him doing it, those little small cuts that keep hitting you 50 here 100, these are small numbers, and to make them like significant is a good way of, I mean, really shows characterization, understanding reality, and people can relate to it. They don't need to always feel like it's glamorized.
Yeah, because I wanted like an audience to be able to feel like they could be him, you know? If you have like a working class or even middle class upbringing, you know that like you're not you have to keep working to make money. And you could be tomorrow if you lost your job in that same position that he's in and just struggling to keep a roof over his family's head. I think that's a huge motivating factor for most people. So I think the goal is to make something that felt like you know, anyone could be put in that position. And then you start to sympathize for this guy, even though he starts doing worse and worse things.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's like, but he's gonna grit it out, you know.
Yeah.
Have a wife and kid back home, and I remember those days and shooting weddings. I'm glad I didn't go past the one kid and the first wife, but I mean, I'd rather be I don't like working for people. I don't like taking shit. I guess
Yeah,
I hope that means I'm gonna have a long life, despite the lack of wealth, you know.
totally.
Um, Yeah, so that's what I was thinking about how you did it. Oh, and that one shot with the little circle on the wall after seeing them having to do it that way. We always would go up to like truck tires, in like those stops on the turnpikes and all, you know.
Right.
And real close, just looks like you're looking at the tires.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I liked your film, so we'll write some more about it. Will you shoot me your email and I'll shoot you a few questions so we can write about. When I think I see a winner, I'm gonna put my support behind it and say I'm a
Yeah, absolutely. Do you want me to? I don't have your email, just I guess through Scott, but
You can just tell it to me because it's
okay, yeah, it's Michael
yeah.
at sumoduo, SUMMODUO.com.
Okay. Just like the one of the producers. That's
Yeah.
really good. I was trying to find Scott's phone number to ask him something, right? And I started tracking through everything. And I tracked down to a guy that I hadn't known in years who's got all these films. And we were looking to try to hook some up. It's for like secondary horror. I hope my friend's platform survives, but it's for the ones that aren't Amazon and going right to
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
but 6 years from now or something like that, if somehow you're not picked up as a classic, it has a possibility. So, I mean, there's so many, there's the Clockwork Orange stuff too, I can feel.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, that's another, yeah. There's so many references that like all these films really, I think affected me as a young man and like were in the back of my mind when I was writing this for sure.
Yeah, so and then I looked at so we get down to the question of the physicality of it. Now, it is possible for a car to run over a body, okay, and
Yeah,
be under, and the back fins or whatever's the back bumper there would be right at the level that would hit the people above, but not. I mean, physically, I think that is possible.
I think it's probably possible. I know like that's definitely we we were playing fast and loose with the rules a little bit there, but I like to think if you're in the moment and you're in the scene, you'll buy it. If you're like if the movie hasn't won you over by then maybe you're paying more attention to the physics than the like.
Well, he's like this is a guy who's read hundreds and hundreds of horror pieces from both.
Right, yeah. He's the wrong person
Got
to
all
ask.
the science fiction and everything else,
Yeah,
you know. And he had a government job for years, so I guess he had a lot of time to read. Well,
right.
back then, you know. But yeah, I could see the physics of that working to that extent. So I mean, they always say and also because it's impossible. All of a sudden, the thing comes to life, and it makes it happen, even though
Yeah,
you're only suspecting. I mean, that there's really any kind of interaction. You know,
totally.
so that's impossible. So
Yeah,
what
yeah,
can
exactly.
do a little possibility with physics. In fact, I'm
Yeah,
sure it could be done if it had that much precision ability, since it's such a superior actual artificial intelligence of things that deal with cabs, right?
yeah.
It could probably have calculated the one spot it could hit or the range of stuff and actually hit him and he could, and it'll roll over him, right?
I'll go with that. Yeah.
I love it, man. It's really nice when you see something like that that is fresh and it's your first one, and I think you should take it through festivals. But whatever we can do. When is it opening in New York?
That's a good question. Like, yeah, I don't know. I don't know if we have theatrical stuff lined up for it yet, but I've got to talk to Scott about that.
Well, yeah, you
But
see how your buzz is and see if the, distributor will kick in for a party, and I could get a shitload of people in the film business to the party, I assure you.
okay, cool. Well, I'll definitely if we yeah, when that happens, I'll be in touch for sure.
And tell us which liquor company you're working with by that point, hopefully. This is the way you got to do it. Uh,
Right.
it's very well can be done. I assume Scott's an expert in that. But you know, um, well, it was fun. It was really good talking to I always get revived when I see somebody makes a film that's got some real energy. I say, ah, there you go. There's a reason for this shit. That's life, whatever.
Well, thank you so much. I appreciate it.
I enjoyed it. And we'll
Thanks,
be
man.
in touch. Just send me your I got your email, so
Yeah,
I'll
so send me an email and then
send
we'll
you
stay in
one
touch
solid question that I missed for
for
sure.
sure.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you. Thanks so much.
Bye bye. Bye bye.
All right, see ya.